Hello and welcome to Money and Impact. My name's Suzanne Caldeira. I'm a mortgage lender. I've been in mortgage lending for the past 23 years. Deal with a lot of money, with people trying to figure out how much money they need for their down payments or how much money that they need to maintain their homes. And then Impact, the other name of the show, is I've had so many people throughout the course of my life and career that have impacted me, and I felt really blessed and lucky to get to know them. And having this show allows me to bring some impactful people and some people that touch upon the money topics as well. And today's guest, Tara Crossley, who's a dynamic realtor, is someone that touches upon both of those.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining.
This is very exciting to me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you.
Awesome.
Yeah, so, and I'll share with the viewers, a few years ago, saw Tara on Instagram crying about what was going on personally in her life, running a real estate business, and I said, oh my goodness, I have to know her. Yeah. Stalked you, called you. I think you hung up on me. I know you didn't hang up on me. You might have. You might have. Just another lender chasing you. But can you talk about that?
Oh yeah, of course. So anyone who runs a small business, real estate is no different, and being a realtor, you are a small business. That is what your income is solely dependent on what your production is and what you can bring into your home. Trying to transition through major life events through that when you do not get PTO, when you do not have insurance benefits or sick days or vacation days, it's really hard. And when you go from, I guess, kind of a nuclear family setting, and then you're going to separate from that and be the sole provider, it's really kind of a hang on to your pants kind of moment. Not only that, you are suffering a multitude of grief, but you still have to go to work. Real estate is absolutely unforgiving, as you know. It is our job to serve our clients even when we're suffering normal life events that our clients go through, because at the end of the day, there are, tens of thousands of realtors, there are tens of thousands of lenders, and if I can't perform even though things are going on in my life in one way or another, they'll hire someone else. And that's just how it goes. So yeah, I mean, during that time of my life, I think you probably tuned into me right at the beginning of that journey. And what I learned is a lot of people were very surprised in my life that I was willing to share that. But I did it because so many of my own sphere, the people in my life, were wanting to do the same thing, but they were terrified. They didn't, I feel like society tells people to be afraid to leave a spouse or a partner. And at the end of the day, I have yet to meet someone who didn't survive it.
Sure.
So what I want to do is help people come up with the tools and the mental organization to come up with a plan to be able to do that if that's what they have to do for their life.
Have you always been that open in your life?
Yeah, much to a lot of people's chagrin, because it's, to some people, if you're very private or I guess it goes back to probably our parents' generation, you don't air your dirty laundry. Mm-hmm. Well, that's where stigmas are created, right? By the privacy and the shame of what every household is suffering. So every household suffers disagreements or from time to time separations or things that are just difficult to talk about, and there's a fear surrounding it. But when you open up about it, you realize you have an entire community who is experiencing the same thing and maybe not navigating it as well as you are because they don't have the courage to talk about it. So my goal in life is really kind of to normalize what's already normal. It's just kept in secrecy, I guess.
Well, that doesn't always come right away.
Right.
And I know you mentioned that, when I asked you, you said that you have been like that.
Yeah.
But were there parts of your life or parts of your past that made you want to share more?
Oh, 1,000%. So, just even wanting to separate from my spouse, I really felt like society tells women particularly, be afraid. You're not going to survive it. How are you going to live? Who's going to pay for stuff, right? even if you're a person in your household who is a functioning financial person, and I was always an earner in my household. But the idea is if you separate from your spouse, all of a sudden you're going to be this massive failure. Or that marriage in general is a test that you pass or fail. So if you separate from a spouse, that's a failure. Is it a failure? No, there was a beginning and this is an end of a relationship, and it's sad. And it's normal to experience the grief of that, whether this is ultimately going to be a happy thing for you or not. And you shouldn't fear it the way people fear death. I also feel like, you make a promise to a person that you're supposed to die by, and I feel like that's a little bit of an archaic belief at this point, because you don't know what life is going to look like 2 or 3 decades down the road. So I just really felt like I knew in my own community, so I'm pretty involved in my community. I have a lot of friends in my community. At that time, they were a lot of married friends. I knew that making this move was kind of going to cause other people to make this move. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that and, say, like, my spouse isn't a bad person, but at this point we have reached a time in our relationship where it's better for us to pursue other avenues. And normalize that, and normalize the fact that you can do this without having your children suffer. You can all be a success. Like, it's all about how you decide to do it. I want ultimately women to feel supported, whether they have lost a spouse to tragedy or they are, choosing to leave an unhealthy relationship. And I want people to understand there's a way to do it in planning, in steps, that doesn't have to feel chaotic and crazy. And if you're financially literate in your own household, you can't fail. I mean, that's just how it is. And I want to try to reduce some of the fear surrounding it.
Especially for women, have you found that there are many that maybe aren't involved in finances?
Oh, yes. So I was one of those women.
Okay.
I was one of those women for years. So I had always kind of prided myself on being an independent person, but I really wasn't. And I didn't know that until I knew that. So unfortunately, I think about 5 years into our marriage, my husband fell off our roof and sustained a traumatic brain injury.
Oof.
And when he was in the hospital, I realized I don't even have a password. How could I do this to myself? Like, I have allowed myself to become financially ignorant. And I knew that he could be trusted with money. I wasn't concerned about that. But now tragedy struck, and I had no idea how to access anything. Not our insurance, not a bank account. I mean, nothing. Like, I had our checking and a debit card, but as far as logging into anything, clueless. I had no idea if we had enough life insurance. And while I was navigating all of that stuff, I'm big on writing things down and noting not only gratitudes, but affirmations too. I made a note for me to get my act together financially. And that is one of the things I talk to women about on a regular basis. You have got to be financially literate. You have got to know what's going on in your household as far as finances go. And it's not really a trust thing, it's an education thing. You need to be able to make moves if something happens, and you need to be able to have a plan B if you have a spouse or a partner that you can't trust. So the only way to do that is to know the facts. And I see it in real estate all the time, and unfortunately it primarily is with women. I've had to say to clients, you might want to double check this, or you might want to look into this, or I would it would behoove you to know what dollar amount is in all of these accounts, when I can tell, there's a kind of a nefarious side in there, a partner or a parent or whoever, doing some things that are maybe a little dishonest with money. And the other person just trusts them, so they've allowed them to kind of take control.
What got you into real estate?
Oh, I love answering this question. So I've been in sales and recruiting since I was 14 years old.
Whoa.
So my very first job, it was an ad in the paper, the want ads in the New London Day, for a telemarketer for Kirby vacuums.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So at 14, and we're going back because you can't even work at 14 anymore. So I'm aging myself. But at 14, I walked from my house to the Kirby vacuum office. My house and my high school and the Kirby vacuum office were all in walking distance. And that's what I was looking for, a job I could walk to. And they just threw me in there. I don't even remember really having an interview process because they were like, yeah, you're hired. Because, you know, telemarketing, who wants to do that job? And because I was 14, this was such a blessing. I didn't know it at the time, but I didn't know any better. So I didn't have the really ability to be offended by rejection yet. It didn't hurt my feelings, you know, for people to hang up on me. It was actually kind of a wild, exciting ride for me, you know, I didn't realize I was so powerful just to call someone and have them be irate with me on the phone and be absolutely belligerent and say the craziest things. And I got a real kick out of that. So I learned to smile and dial at 14 years old. And that's really kind of an old sales tactic at this point, the smile and dial. But I'll tell you, if you're someone who does it, everybody knows that when times are tough, that is a reliable way to get business.
Absolutely.
Everyone has grown very afraid of the phones. So Kirby was a great time. I worked there for more than a year. And then I moved to rural Pennsylvania to live with my grandparents. So I did the same thing when I got there. I looked for a telemarketing job. The telemarketing job I got there was selling cemetery plots. So cemetery plots was my first real estate gig. And I was actually more successful than you would think at selling plots over the phone. So I lived in a very Catholic area. So planning for your future was very important there. And you needed to secure your plot. So I would book the appointment to have people come in and talk to, you know, the management or whatever about purchasing plots. And I would get a commission off of that. So I was pretty good at that. And I made a decent amount of money doing that. And then I bounced around from different telemarketing jobs for a long time. I am definitely one of those people who has sold pretty much any MLM you can think of. And then I had a home daycare. So I had a home daycare. It allowed me to stay home with my children and still earn an income. And then COVID hit. So I had the home daycare for about 4 years. And we were really kind of regrouping and trying to figure out like what the next move was. And I always knew I would end up back in sales. Why it never occurred to me to become a realtor, I have no idea. But we went camping with a friend of ours, and he said he was taking the real estate exam. This was during the giant wave of COVID realtors. And he said, "Why aren't you?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "I guess I will." And that's what I did. And then I had a couple of friends point me in the direction of a couple of different brokerages. I met with a couple of big box brokers, and then I met with Key, and it was a really good personality fit, but they were going to allow me to start training in the office before I had my license. So I just went and hung out in the office as I was getting my license and taking the pre-licensing course, and I learned a lot. They allowed me to go out on appointments with them, inspections and things, and I realized sales has a lot of similarities across the board, and I was like more than qualified to do this job. So it was very exciting to me that instead of selling stuff people don't want for a change, I can sell something people actually do want. And that really taught me a lot about building relationships. So more or less, that's how I decided to become a realtor, and my biggest regret is that I didn't do that at 18.
But you wouldn't have that foundation.
No, I wouldn't. And that foundation has carried me through the darkest times in the last 5 years of this crazy market. I mean, they make the same joke about New England weather at this point as we do about the real estate market. You know, if you don't like the market right now, well, just wait 5 minutes.
It's the truth.
And we'll see what's going on. So it's allowed me to weather the storm during the dead spots or during the spots where the media has really bashed us as real estate professionals or whatever, because at the end of the day, I was kind of brought up and I cut my teeth on guerrilla marketing. So I have that strength where other people who weren't trained in sales that way really kind of don't. They flounder a little bit because they're not willing to do aggressive things.
And what for you would you say are some of the key things that catapulted your business?
I would definitely say the importance of building relationships with people. So one of the things that I tell my clients all the time in listing appointments is, I am completely unconcerned about selling your house. Your house is going to sell. What's important to me is that that happens in a way that you are comfortable with and you feel good about the process, and I, can mitigate as much of the stress as humanly possible of the whole situation. So building relationships, number one. I would also say persistence and consistency in general. You know how that goes.
Yeah, well, it's true, and also the phone.
Yeah, so the phone is so important. So texting, we have gotten to a point in the world, and I am one of them. So I'm on the tail end of being a millennial. I graduated in '99. I definitely want to text. If I don't have to pick up the phone, I don't really want to. But at the end of the day, what I have learned is you can typically not convey your sentiment or tone via text. So it is of utmost importance to pick up the phone and speak to your clients during the transaction, because the tone is chosen by the reader. And that is based on whatever mood they're in. So they are deciding what your intent was when you sent the text. And unless you are peppering with emotional emojis to convey what you mean, and that's a very tough thing for a realtor who drives around to do, because we shouldn't be texting and driving, but I'm sure every single one of us do it. But you're trying to just be short and to the point while you're doing that, and then you have to add emojis into the mix, or people might think that you have ill intent, or that you're being short or abrasive or whatever it is. So I tell my clients, I am happy to use your form of communication, but once we are under contract, I will be calling you a lot, because I don't want things to be lost in translation, and I don't want my tone to be misconstrued, because feelings can easily be hurt that way. And once feelings are hurt, it's very hard to turn that around.
What do you find is where you get the biggest joy from your business?
Oh, that's so hard to say. I get a lot of joy from managing my team. So I'm the team manager for the Connecticut office, and I really like to nurture people, and I really like to help them build their careers. I really enjoy, in general, helping women with difficult situations. A lot of times what we view as simple and easy is very difficult to people when they're in a hard situation, and I like carrying them through that process. And I guess that would convey to my real estate career too. So during a real estate transaction, it is very rare for something to go completely smoothly. So when a problem arises, I do pride myself on diffusing difficult situations and kind of carrying people through the process. I really enjoy problem solving in general.
What drives you?
Oh, what doesn't drive me? I don't know. I've always been one of those people who is high energy. I can't say that it comes from one specific thing or another, but helping people drives me for sure. And then, of course, feeling a sense of accomplishment from my goals, being a mother definitely drives me. I absolutely love being a mother. I have 3 kids. So it's really not one particular thing, but I am definitely goal-oriented and goal-motivated.
Which helps with the real estate, having
Totally.
timelines and things that you need to hit.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, we're recording this in August and not exactly sure when we're going to air this, but what do you think are some of the things, or maybe 1 or 2 things that sellers should do or aren't doing to get their homes ready for the market?
So this is easy. So sellers really need to interview and choose a realtor that they trust, and then lean on that individual's expertise. I would say that is the number one thing. Number two, I would say absolutely always, no matter how you keep your house, whether you are an immaculate person or whether you have a well lived in home, hire a professional to do a deep cleaning. It makes a world of difference, and it's really minimal cost compared to, like, you know, a renovation or painting or something like that. You may not even need to do those things if you do just a deep cleaning and a good decluttering of your home, inside and out. Power wash the house. Always power wash the house, because you kind of get desensitized to coming in and out of your house all the time. You don't see things that other people see. And it's our job as real estate professionals to help you see that in a tactful, obviously kind way. But so what I usually do at a listing appointment is it's a very casual conversation. I always tell you that up front. It's a casual conversation. I'm not taking pictures. We're just going to talk about what your goals are, and we're going to come up with a plan together. So when I go there, I'll say, you know, I'm writing down notes, and I might have a whole list of things that I want someone to do. Or they might really not have to do a whole heck of a lot. I might recommend some light staging or something before photography. But I always, you know, kind of coach people and just say, the most important day for your house to look immaculate and like no one lives there is photography day, because we only get one stab at that. After that, for the most part, people are pretty forgiving, and they understand that you live in your house. The only thing people really are not forgiving about are smells.
Yeah.
If it smells, it doesn't sell.
That's a good one.
And I'm gentle with people about that. You know, I might say, I do smell a little bit of dog or cat or cigarette smoke or whatever it is. And then I have a whole guide that I give people, and it's got checklists that are helpful for them to go on. So I would say those are the most helpful things. And then the absolute number one thing that I think any listing agent would tell you on the planet is price it appropriately to begin with. And your agent can guide you on that. Ultimately, we will price a home whatever a seller wants. The seller is the boss of the entire situation. But if your list agent tells you that a certain price point is going to get you that multiple offer situation or over your ask, listen.
Now, we know
Yeah.
this for sure. Not all realtors are created equal.
Right.
What are some red flags when that seller is sitting and interviewing agents that they should look out for?
Okay, so you want to talk about communication style. How does that person communicate, and does it match your communication style? Availability. Are they a full-time agent or a part-time agent? So I always advocate for a full-time agent. It's not a slight at part-time agents, but this is a career. It's really not a side gig. And this is the biggest sale and purchase of someone's home. So if you have a full-time job and this is your side gig, how on earth are you going to be able to serve your client on the level that they're expecting?
And what do you see, let's flip the script to buyers. What do you see are some of the mistakes that buyers make before they engage with a realtor?
Oh, before they engage with a realtor, trying to DIY, or they're trying to work with multiple realtors at a time, which is really going to go away because of the buyer broker situation we're in. But they play dial a realtor on Zillow. No one, and I mean buyers and sellers, understand how Zillow gets paid. Realtors pay Zillow, lenders pay Zillow. So when you call a realtor, when you call Zillow, it is very rarely you're getting the listing agent, number one. Number two, every time you call Zillow, you'll get a new agent depending on who purchased that zip code. It does not behoove you to have 4 realtors doing the job of one, because then you just have too many cooks in the kitchen. So that's one thing. Shopping outside of your price range is another thing that is a big mistake. And not having regular conversations with your lender. So you need to have a regular conversation with your lender. You could be pre-approved for $500,000, but if that monthly payment is not what you want or not affordable to you, then it's going to be a big mistake. You're going to end up underwater. So have a good conversation with your trusted lender about where you want to be payment-wise, monthly payment-wise, so that they can guide you as to, your max price really on a house. And don't shop outside of that because you will be sad.
I agree with you. Funny stories. I always love to get funny stories from guests. What's the funniest thing that's happened in real estate? Or do we have enough time for that?
Oh, yeah. I have a humdinger. So I think it was my second listing appointment with Key. And it was a lead. It wasn't somebody that I knew or was familiar with. And it was an hour away. I was ready. I over-prepare for appointments. And I was very excited. I usually wear a suit or a dress, and this particular day I wore a dress. I went, I nailed it. I had such a great rapport with this family. I loved them so much. I felt very much like they loved me. Because it was an hour away, I asked if I could use their bathroom. I went and I used their bathroom, and I came out, and the wife said, "Oh, honey, you're stuck." And she just kept pointing at me. So I kept turning around, my whole body, I'm turning around. She just kept saying, "You're stuck, you're stuck." And I just kept saying, "Stuck where?" And she said, "Your dress is tucked into your pantyhose." So my dress was tucked into my pantyhose, and my rear end was exposed to the husband. And it was a horrific experience. And I turned around like 5 times.
Did you get the listing?
So I did. I got the listing. Thank God. I would have wept a river. I think they felt like they had to give me the listing after that. So when I got home, I called my broker and I said, "Hi." He said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well," I said, "I might be the first Key agent to ever secure a listing by getting her dress stuck in her pantyhose in front of this whole family."
Oh my goodness.
And it was mortifying, and I never forgot it as long as I live. So now I double and triple check my situation when I leave the bathroom.
That is a doozy. And with that, we're going to end. This is Money and Impact with Suzanne Caldeira. For more information on today's show and today's guest, be sure to check out the credits and my YouTube for replays. And as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.